Okay, here we are. It's already hump day. It's Wednesday. That means you get this day behind you, and if you're one of the people who only works a 5-day week, then you're over the hump. And you can start looking toward the end. We, on the other hand, are 24/7 here at the EIB Network. Rush Limbaugh back at you, America's real anchorman. Looking forward to the next 3 hours. Telephone number, if you want to join us, 800-282-2882. And if you want to send an email, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So the president getting ready to leave for Ohio. He is going to try to hammer General Motors, change their mind. They have announced they're going to close a manufacturing plant there. I find it very interesting that Ford has announced that they're planning an $850 million investment and 1,000 new jobs at a Michigan plant. This announcement this morning as Trump is on his way to Ohio to try to save and give some grief to the GM people there. So we will keep a sharp eye. There's a little story. I'm going to get to the main stuff in a minute. I got some stuff I want to get out of the way to make sure that I talk. Oh, and I've been talking the last 2 days about watching this Democrat town hall with Tulsi Gabbard and Mayor Pete. Keep a sharp eye out for Mayor Pete. Pete Buttigieg, whatever, from South Bend. Anyway, Cookie went back and got some of the questions, put a montage together, some of the questions. I've been telling you that it's a different world. It really is. The people on the left live in a different world, a completely different psychology. They're living their lives literally cowering in fear in the corners. They are scared to death. And the questions that they are asking these presidential candidates, it really is like listening to people that live in a different place. So she went back, put a montage of some of the questions together, got that coming up. But I have a story here in the New York Post. Headline, posh couple paid in Facebook stock to get daughter into UCLA. A well-heeled California couple paid $250,000 worth of Facebook stock to weasel their non-athletic daughter into UCLA as a soccer recruit. According to court papers, Lauren Isaacson, listed as a midfielder on UCLA's soccer team in 2017, same year the elite squad finished second to national champion Stanford. But prosecutors say that her impressive soccer experience listed on the same site was all a ruse, that she never actually played competitive soccer. She never played a single game for UCLA. Her father, Bruce, president of real estate development firm WP Investments, and her mother, Davina, are among 50 people charged in this college cheating scam. And in this paragraph, the Isaacsons are accused of giving crooked college prep expert William Rick Singer 2,150 shares of Facebook stock worth about $250,000 to get her into the school. There's nothing wrong with the attempt here to besmirch these people by paying in Facebook stock is a quasi-journalism malpractice. Do you know how many charitable donations are made with appreciated stock? That doesn't add anything to the scandal. It doesn't make it worse. The scandal's enough as it is. The fact that they were paying anything to grease the skids to get their kids in and lying about them being athletes and getting extended time to take the tests and rigging the whole game for them, how they paid for it. I mean, this is just an attempt to make people even angrier when this is not unusual at all. Like, well, they could have used Bitcoin. They could have used anything is the point. But to try to inform these people gave away, they paid in Facebook stock. Somehow that's supposed to make it even worse. And it's so common. In fact, if you happen to be fortunate enough to have enough money to be donating it to things, one of the smartest ways to do it is to donate appreciated stock so you don't have to pay the capital gains on it. You have appreciated stock, you bought stock at a certain price. At the time you donate it, it has gained value. So you give the receiving charity that stock. You get the charitable deduction for it. You don't have to pay the capital gains tax on it because you're not selling it. You don't get rid of your whole position, but it's a common way that, and there isn't a charity in the world that will not accept appreciated stock or any stock in lieu of cash, because all they're going to do is invest the money you give them or invest the stock that you give them anyway. This is just a cheap little attempt here to, I think, attach additional evil to these people using Facebook, since Facebook is got its own image problems now, and deservedly so, by the way. Donald Trump says that the Democrats are getting very strange. You see where Trump tweeted last night? Democrats are getting very strange. They now want to change the voting age to 16. They want to abolish the Electoral College and increase significantly the number of Supreme Court justices. Actually, you've got to win at the ballot box. Now, I know Trump is being facetious, but the Democrats do want to lower the voting age, and they do want to get rid of the Electoral College in order to win at the ballot box. You know, Mitt Romney would have been Obama in 2012 if we only counted the votes of people over 30. Everyone younger has been completely indoctrinated by the schools, or as Pelosi says, they've been captured. The Democrats, let me run through the list of things here that the Democrats want to do. And all the while, they are running around talking about how Trump is assaulting the norms in our country, that Trump is assaulting our cultural norms, Trump is assaulting our political norms, that Trump is blowing up everything. It's the exact opposite. It is the left today that is assaulting American norms, if you will. Court packing, abolishing the Electoral College, abortion after birth, open borders, anybody wanting to come into the country gets in, the government totally taking over health care, Medicare for all. You think that's not assaulting norms? Everything the Democrats want requires trampling on the Constitution. And I'm going to tell you something else. This business of getting rid of the Electoral College in order to make every vote count, what a silly and stupid claim. Let me present a picture for you. Once there is no Electoral College, if they were to ever succeed in eliminating the Electoral, by the way, and they want to do all this without going through the amendment process to change the Constitution. They just want to decree it. This is modern day liberalism. They decree climate change is real, and that's it. There is no debate. They decree that eating meat must be stopped. There's no debate. You must stop eating meat. Whatever cockamamie crazy thing they want, they are demanding it, including changes to the Constitution. No debate, no argument, and you don't get a say. But let's paint a little picture here. I don't know that people, with the state of American education today, I doubt that very many young people have the slightest idea of the purpose of the Electoral College. They don't understand the concept of representation in the House of Representatives versus each state getting 2 senators, regardless of size. Sure, they don't understand any of this because they've not been taught this. But it is fundamental to understanding how a constitutional representative republic works. But let's play the little game. Let's say there is no Electoral College. If there's no Electoral College and the only thing that matters is the popular vote, guess where presidential candidates are not going to campaign? Red state, flyover states. Those states will never see presidential candidates come to town. Presidential candidates will go to New York. They will go to California. They'll go to Illinois. They'll go to Texas. maybe Florida and Ohio, and outside of that, they won't go anywhere because it won't matter. Is that what you want? You want all of these red states, flyover states, that do not have separately and individually large electoral college votes. You want them wiped out. Only the popular vote counts. Guess where the candidates are going to be? The left coast and the right coast and Texas. That's all they're going to do. New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Boston, Massachusetts. That's only place. And those people are going to be the ones that then will elect the president of the United States. This is exactly what the founding fathers intended to prevent. The Electoral College is the equivalent of equal representation. Let's go back and look at 2016. We are told, and we'll just accept this for the sake of the discussion, we're told that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million votes. But she lost the presidency by a significant number of Electoral College votes. Her margin of victory of 3 million popular votes was a combination of New York and California. Trump did not even campaign in California. Trump didn't think there was any reason to. There was no reason to waste money in California, no reason to waste time. Spent a little time in New York because he lives there, but he didn't go because it's lost. The Democrats own it. They're going to get all the electoral votes there, so he didn't go. But Hillary wins. If Hillary Clinton had won the presidency on the basis of the popular vote, I dare say that the people that would have elected her would have been in California and New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts and Connecticut and so forth up and down the East Coast. Well, forget the mid-eastern seaboard, mid-Atlantic states, got to include Florida. That's exactly the opposite of what the founding fathers intended. Now, these people that want to ban the Electoral College, whether they know this explicitly or instinctively, they still understand what they're talking about. They want to eliminate your say-so in the presidential race. They can't win. This has been my point all along. They can't win without gaming the system. In their own minds, they're admitting it. They don't think they can win without gaming the system. Now they need to game the Constitution. The same way with representation versus the House and the Senate. In the House, members are elected every 2 years, and they represent districts in the states, and it's directly related to population. So California and New York have larger congressional delegations in the House, but each state only has 2 senators. So every state is represented equally in the Senate to counter whatever out of balance occurs by direct representation in the House. The founding fathers wanted to make it very hard for government to function. They built gridlock into the system like you can't believe because they didn't trust what they knew would be the amassing and collection of massive political power in the nation's capital in Washington. They never wanted to take power away from the people who live in the country because it is a country of, by, and for the people. And so they built the system with checks and balances and everything else to really make it tough to pass new laws. Why do you think the administrative state has sprung up? Because it is tough to get legislation passed in Congress. And longer we go, we discover that Congress doesn't even want to tackle controversial issues because they don't want to go on record voting pro or con, because then that becomes a hindrance to their reelection campaign. So they form blue ribbon committees, for example, to determine which Air Force bases are going to be closed during downsizing or this or that, so that when it comes time, say a couple of bases close in California, the local congressman can say, hey, I had nothing to do. I worked really hard to save the base, but that blue ribbon panel, they're the ones that did it. Don't look at me. Same thing with the administrative state. All of these laws, all these regulations that come from unelected people way deep in the administrative state, because it got really hard for the left, well, anybody, to really move an agenda forward in the House and the Senate and to get a presidential signature. It was designed to be really hard. It was designed by the founders for government not to have an easy time wielding power over people and growing and getting bigger. And as the country evolved, it became harder and harder for legislation to happen. Ideologues and agenda-driven members of Congress and the Senate expressed all this frustration. So here comes the deep state and all these presidential cabinet-level departments. And how many of them did Nixon create? Nixon gave us OSHA. Nixon gave us the EPA, all in an attempt to buy the love of liberals, and it didn't work. So we build all these bureaucracies. They become part of the administrative state. They start issuing regulations left and right. Been doing this for the last 50 years. We have no recourse. We don't even know when it happens. We don't even know stuff being debated. It isn't being debated. It's being decreed. This is not how it was designed to happen. And the left is simply trying to streamline exactly what they've done in the administrative state by getting rid of the Constitution as often as they can in the electoral process and in the governing process. That's what this is all about. They want to be able to decree things. They don't want to have to compete. They don't want to have to win. They don't want to have to debate. They want to be able to command. And so all of these things that they are talking about, packing the court, yeah, let Trump come out in favor of it and start nominating a bunch of Neil Gorsuches and see how they feel about it. Abolishing the Electoral College. I'm telling you, folks, stop and think about that one. This talk about the popular vote should elect the president, yeah, if every state had the equal number of people in it, but it doesn't. If the Democrats and Republicans were equally represented in every state, then yeah, you could talk about it, but that's never going to be the case. And I'm just telling you, if you get rid of the Electoral College, there isn't a presidential campaign that's going to spend any time outside of the left coast and the East Coast whatsoever. People in New York, Boston, New Jersey, San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Silicon Valley are going to elect every president if you get rid of the Electoral College. Brief timeout. We'll continue here after this.
Rush Limbaugh, your treasure map to the...
Now, all of this that I just explained to you was hashed out at what's called the Great Compromise. And it was part of the Constitutional Convention in 1787. And the Great Compromise is what resulted in the structure of the House and the Senate and eventually the Electoral College. And it was all based on some representation being based on population, while others wanted it equal. And so it was decided that each state would get 2 senators, meaning that in that body, no state had any more power than any other, regardless of the population. It transferred to the Electoral College. Wyoming has 3 electoral votes, for example. But that is a far more powerful number. 3 as part of the whole Electoral College is a much greater number than is the population of Wyoming compared to the population of the country. What is happening now is that liberal Democrat states, realizing the futility of eliminating the Electoral College, are now coming along and wanting to alter their electoral law, election law, by saying that the popular vote in their state would guarantee all the electoral votes in their state, and that the electoral votes in their state would reflect the popular vote nationwide. Colorado has joined this effort. It's the first swing state to join a group pledging to elect presidents based on who wins the national popular vote. So the left is attempting to undermine the Constitution in so many ways, and yet they accuse Trump of assaulting our national norms. Welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here, the EIB Network. Half my brain tied behind my back, just to make it fair. Okay, so let's go back to March 10th. I had a guest in town for the local golf club member guest golf tournament. And this was this was March 10th. Was it a Sunday night? So we were through playing golf. We're kind of wiped out. We played for 4 days in a row. We got the 5th day the next day playing in the L's for Autism tournament. And my guest said, look, we gotta turn on CNN and watch this presidential town hall. So I said, no. If you want to watch that, go over to the house you're staying in and you got to watch it with me. You got to watch this. I said, I don't want to. Why do I want to watch 2 hours of CNN, period, much less a couple of people that are never going to be elected president, never going to get the nomination? Because I have to, and I'm your guest. I said, well, you put it that way, you're right. Guest gets what they want. So we settled in, turned on CNN, and it was 2 hours of this town hall at the South by Southwest Arts and Crafts Fair, whatever the hell it is. It's a bunch of leftists showing up, doing arts and crafts and complaining and whining and comparing their latest tech. So I watched this, and the first hour was Tulsi Gabbard, who is a member of Congress from Hawaii. And the second hour is Mayor Pete Buttigieg. They spent 5 minutes on the pronunciation of his name, by the way, at this town hall. From South Bend, Indiana. 37 years old, openly gay, very popular among people on the left, dark horse, very articulate kind of guy. And so settled in to watch this, and I don't know what I expected, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I did, because I sit here every day, and I know who the left is. I know who they are. And I know their psychology better than they do. And I understand what it is that drives them. Understand liberalism better than they do. But it was worthwhile to actually see this. Remember now, this is a legitimate presidential campaign event. Yeah, there's 16 or 20 Democrats that want the nomination. And every one of them is being given a lot of opportunity on cable news networks to be discovered. I heard about Mayor Pete, but I had never seen him. And I knew of Tulsi Gabbard. I've seen her. I've listened to her. But man, what an experience. Tulsi Gabbard, for example, had one theme. And my buddy and I, we were not doing a drinking game. We were smoking cigars, so we had a puff game. Every time she said something, we puffed on the cigar. The word was service. I want to serve. I'm here for the service. We began every sentence she mentioned service or serving or something. And she had this pained smile on her face. She was trying to smile, but conveying at the same time that she was just in such a deep pain over all the suffering, that's going on in America, the struggle. And it reminded me, every time I saw Michelle "My Belle" Obama make a speech in the first 2 to 3 years of the Obama administration, every speech, the theme was overcoming the struggle. Every audience, she addressed the struggle, whatever it is. The struggle is to survive in this godforsaken country run by a bunch of Republicans. Then they got to the audience Q&A. And this is when I had it confirmed that they are a different world. They live in a different country. They want a different country. Their existence, their day-to-day existence has nothing in common with you and me. These people that are going to vote for the Democrat nominee. And I was prepared to come here and recite from memory the various questions that I remembered these people asking. So Cookie went out and put together a montage of some of the questions that both of these candidates got. We'll do Tulsi Gabbard's first. Again, Sunday night, March 10th, CNN's special presidential town hall event, Representative Tulsi Gabbard. And I think Jake Tapper moderated one of these, and Dana Bash did the other. We're not going to have any of the candidates here, just the questions from the attendees, potential Democrat voters.
I'm troubled by the increase in both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. What can you do in terms of policy and position to combat racism and bigotry?
Can you convince me that your prior positions on gay rights have truly changed? I'm especially concerned about your previous support of conversion therapy, which I find really, really repulsive.
I'd like to know what you would like to do to stop sexual assault in the military.
We will suffer catastrophic consequences of accelerating global warming. With what urgency will you address it?
What do you believe has been the biggest policy mistake of the United States since creation? I'm wondering if you will end the war on drugs by decriminalizing all drugs.
Can you beat Donald Trump?
I wish, folks, that you could see these people and their facial expressions, the pain, the fear, but more than that, it is what they expect out of a president and what they expect out of the government. What can you do in terms of policy and position to combat racism and bigotry? Oh my God, what can you do? Well, the ponytail guy set the stage for all this. You know, in the debate between Clinton and Perot and Bush 41. You know, you guys are our father. You're going to take care of us. Which one are you going to do the best job? But I mean, this was that. This was the ponytail guy on steroids. You convince me your prior positions on gay rights have truly changed. I'm especially concerned about your previous support of conversion therapy. This is for Tulsi Gabbard. You should have seen her face. She turned ashen. The smile turned into a very serious, pained frown, and she begged for forgiveness for ever having thought anything like conversion therapy was possible. And they erupted in applause. Every one of these questions is rooted in personal fear. These people are walking around literally frightened every day. They're frightened of being alive. They're frightened of all the external events that you encounter in life, and they're asking these presidential candidates to make it all good. Please, can you make it safe? Please, can you stop making us feel so scared? Can you do the things that will make us feel safe? Can you make these mean people stop being mean? It's just the kind of things that nowhere in our world would we ever want a politician to take control of and deal with. These are all things that happen in life, and you deal with them with your families, your support group, whatever. You deal with it with your own command of life and overcoming adversity, but these people have no concept of any. They want everything done for them. They want to live in a bubble where no uncomfortable words, situations even exist. I can't do it. And I don't know what you would do to stop sexual assault in the military. And there was more to this question. There was a recitation of some experiences in the military, sexual assault. It was gay sexual assault, by the way. And a person wanted to know what. And of course, the politicians, these people have to have an answer for this thing. Well, you know, I want to serve, and part of my service is to ensure that there isn't any sexual assault anywhere, the military or otherwise. Sexual assault is a horrible thing. It's one of the most horrible things that can happen to anybody, and I want to wipe it out. And I want to make sure that if you go to the military to serve our country, as I am trying to serve our country, we're all here in service. You do not deserve to be assaulted. You ought to, yay! Now, I'm not mocking being assaulted, sexually, any of that. This is the kind of stuff. None of this is policy related. None of this is anything about the things that ought to be considered when choosing leadership, presidential or otherwise. We will suffer catastrophic consequences of accelerating global warming. What urgency will you use to address? I'm going to make it my number one priority. I am here to be in service. And part of being in service is to serve the issue of global warming. And then there were examples of how in Hawaii, false nuclear missile alarm went off and how frightened people were. We can't have this anymore. We can't have false alarm. False alarms can never be allowed to happen again. Whoever false alarmed a nuclear missile incoming to Hawaii needs to be canned and never, ever hired again. People were so scared. There were mothers throwing their babies in sewers. Folks, it was just strange. Now, here are the questions for Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, or Buttigieg. That's because nobody knows how to pronounce his name. They just call him Mayor Pete. He is the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, 37, openly, proudly, happily gay. Same themes. Automation's taking your job. People are dying in the ER. Veterans are coming home and going on welfare. Mike Pence is preventing gay people from being gay. Here you go.
You have very effectively pinpointed job automation as a key pivot in our near future. How do you tactically propose we avert an unemployment crisis? How do you think that this would affect
Stop the tape. Stop all the dancing. Give me time to recue that. How do you tactically propose that we avert an unemployment crisis? Keep Donald Trump in the White House. It's that simple. Look at what happened to unemployment when we got rid of Barack Hussein. Oh, we have more job openings than there are people looking for work. But you notice, how do you tactically propose? Do you think she has any idea what the difference in tactically and strategically is? Think she knows what the difference in tactical nukes and strategic nukes are? How do you tactically propose we avert an unemployment? There is no unemployment crisis. Avert one? We've done that. We elected Donald Trump. Okay, back to the top. I'll try to shut up during the rest of this.
You have very effectively pinpointed job automation as a key pivot in our near future. How do you tactically propose we avert an unemployment crisis?
How do you think that this would affect the lives of LGBTQ people?
Uninsured patients coming to the ER for primary care issues, patients who are sick. The system just seems broken. What changes do you intend to bring to America's healthcare system?
What initiatives do you plan on creating that will ensure that our nation's most selfless men and women will be able to effectively leave service and transition into civilian life without needing to apply for social services?
Vice President Pence is obviously quite conservative. Are his views an aberration?
Do you believe that Congress should begin impeachment proceedings against President Trump?
What needs to be done to fix the democratic process in America?
Overthrow it! What do you mean? We're not going to talk about fixing the Democrat process. We're going to get rid of it. Because in the Democrat process, you people lose more often than not. Vice President Pence, obviously very conservative. Are his views an aberration? No, they're the majority. Deal with it. Do you believe Congress should begin impeachment proceedings against President Trump? Well, the answer to that was, well, of course, we need to wait for the Mueller report. The Mueller report this, the Mueller report. We need to see what various congressional committees come up with. Do I support the impeachment? I support the beheading of Trump. Whatever it takes to get rid of it. Damn right. Yay! Yay! It was a really valuable 2 hours, and I'm glad I watched it.
Rush Limbaugh.
Many of you have been following the latest news on the discoveries regarding the Boeing 737 MAX 8. You know, I'm sorry, folks. Sometimes I lose my. I sit here. I wonder how many people, as they learn about this. Yeah, I heard that. I heard that on the EIB. And I heard Rush say that last week. It's uncanny. And there are graphics now that have been published to portray what happens actually in flight to the airplanes, and everything that was suspected to be at the root of the problem has turned out to be pretty close. So we have that coming up as well. But I need to get started on the phones. We'll do that in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Corey, I'm glad you called, sir. Hi.
Hey, Rush, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hi, I'm a big fan. I just wanted to get your thoughts on a couple quick points about the Electoral College, because I feel like it's really important, and especially a lot of younger people find the Democrat argument, really attractive, because it sounds like it makes sense if you don't really think about it too much. The first point I just wanted to emphasize is that, and you mentioned this about the big states, but it wouldn't just be like the big states, it would be the big city interests. So and they're largely, homogenous across the country. That would be, determining the fate of the country. So, like, even though you might have some conservatives on Long Island or parts of upstate New York City would be where the candidates would just, campaign for the entire election season and whatnot.
Well, of course, the cities as the urban areas and the population centers, that's actually true. That if you wanted to say that campaigning would even get more precise, they wouldn't spend time, say, in any of the Central Valley, the San Joaquin Valley, California. They'd stay on the coast. They go to Seattle, they go up and down to Portland, they would hit San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Los Angeles. But I think some of the ad buys would be statewide, particularly in New York and California. But no question that the big cities would be the focus. This is where many of the left's voters live. And in many cases, it's the left's voters who are on welfare or who receive some kind of assistance from government. But your reference to how attractive it is another good point. You take young skulls full of mush, particularly young millennials. I mean, there are key words in their lives that if you use them in the right context, you own them, like sustainability. You know, any kind of policy that is sustainable, you own them. Fairness is another one. Equality is another one. So when you talk about electing a president, what do you mean the president that got the most votes didn't win? That isn't fair. That didn't happen in the student body election. And it doesn't happen. I don't understand it. Isn't fair. They end up thinking the Electoral College is how the system is rigged. And so they'll easily be persuaded into getting rid of what's rigging the election. Folks, it all goes back to education and how pathetic about American history and America in general, the Constitution, public education has been in 2 generations. The real screw-up seems to have been Boeing's decision to make from a pilot's point of view, make the new jet seem to handle like the old jet. That sentence encompasses everything that went wrong in the MAX 8. He always does. President Trump stopped on the way to Marine One, a helicopter on the way to the airport to catch the airplane to Ohio. He stopped to chat with reporters. He gives reporters more access than any president in my lifetime. He loves interacting with them. I think he loves what they think are their tough questions. And Trump's one of these guys that loves telling people what he thinks. He loves sharing his opinion on things. He very much believes what he believes what he believes is right, and he loves hearing himself say all those things. I can relate. So here's a little review, by the way. Greetings and welcome back. 800-282-2882, the phone number, if you want to appear on the program. A lot of questions on the Mueller report. And speaking of the Mueller report, a New York judge released 900 pages of documents. Who in the world creates? You know, every time a subpoena for document, I don't have, if somebody subpoenaed my documents, I don't have one. Documents of what? Well, other than emails and stuff, but 900 pages of documents. I understand if you're president, you're working in the government, you have to keep a permanent record of everything you do, but I do not. You know, I don't have a diary. I don't do any of this. If somebody starts subpoenaing documents, now watch, somebody will do it now. Just, you're shaking your head. Don't talk about it because they'll subpoena me. Is that what you're doing in there? It just has always amazed me. I need to see your documents. Okay, here's 1,000 of them. Where do you get them? Who's got time to produce 1,000 documents? Anyway, 900 pages of documents released by a federal judge in New York yesterday at the request of the New York Times, a Freedom of Information Act request. These 900 pages of documents reveal that the special counsel, the Right Honorable Robert J. Mueller, the 14th, was investigating Michael Cohen just 2 months after Mueller was appointed. Mueller has been looking into Cohen practically from the get-go, almost a year before the FBI raided Cohen's home and office. Now, this tells me, because I'm quite insightful on this stuff, the fact that Mueller has been investigating Cohen for all but 2 months of this 2-year investigation tells me two things. One, Mueller obviously completely believed the Steele dossier. And the more I learn of how many people believe this thing. Folks, I'm running out of ways to characterize this thing for you. Hoax, fraud, series of lies. And as I learn, as I discover more and more how apparently many people believed this crap, which is what it is literally made up stuff. There isn't one element of the dossier that is factual, that has been corroborated, that has been verified. Yet it is, we now know the dossier was the sole reason for all of this. The sole reason for the Mueller investigation, the appointment of the special counsel, the ruination of Michael Flynn and Manafort, and everybody else that's been ruined here. The dossier, a fake, phony piece of literal excrement created by the campaign of Hillary Clinton. But the fact that this guy, the Right Honorable Robert J. Mueller, the 14th Esquire, has been pursuing Cohen for all but 2 months of the past 2 years tells me that he believed the dossier, because Cohen is a major figure in it. Cohen was in Prague. Cohen changed his socks in Belarus. Cohen, whatever the hell. So if he's been looking at Cohen for all this time, he had to have believed the dossier. That, folks, this is scary. This is literally scary that these people literally believe this thing. That the man with the most impeccable integrity and honor in all of government, Robert J. Mueller, believed this? And the second thing that this tells me is that Mueller wanted to spy on Cohen in the hope of getting dirt on Trump. He's been investigating Cohen for all this time. There's no question. It wasn't just Rosenstein that wanted to wear a wire to go entrap Trump. It's been Mueller and all of his team investigating all these people close to Trump, just damn certain that they were going to find evidence, some evidence that they could say was collusion and get rid of the guy. Even though it's a Reuters story, even though Reuters doesn't mention it, the records show that Mueller's office got a judge to grant him authority to read 18 months worth of Cohen's emails. And Mueller's team also obtained Cohen's telephone records. They went so far as to use a high-tech tool known as a stingray. Do you know what a stingray is? Let me explain what a stingray is. It's an electronic device that law enforcement can use in their cop car or anywhere they're hiding out, and it makes your phone think that it's a cell tower. And that's how they find you. It does a number of things, the stingray does, but one of the things it does is identify you, and it makes your phone, any phone, think that it is a cell tower, so it starts pinging locations and everything else, all the data they get from cell towers, and they're illegal for you and I, the average citizen, to have. But law enforcement has them. You can get them on the black market. They're kind of fun to fool around with people, because you can use them to screw up people's phones and all kinds of stuff. They were using a stingray. There's also another piece of equipment like it called a triggerfish. But it was used to pinpoint the location of all of Cohen's cell phones. And the reason for that was hoping that they would find Cohen in proximity of Russians and saboteurs and colluders and maybe even Trump. Mueller even got access to Cohen's iCloud account. And Apple will turn that information over under certain circumstances. And they obviously did here. Now, where is the outrage at the government spying on people? There isn't any on this, because it's Cohen. He deserves to be spied on. Trump deserves to be spied on. Anyway, after all that, Mueller's team still doesn't seem to have found any Trump-Russia collusion. They just found that Michael Cohen was in financial trouble and in need of money. That's all they found. They didn't find any collusion. They didn't find... Mueller would not have turned this over to the Southern District if he had found any. So Trump's asked about this. He's asked about the Mueller report. a bunch of times. He also held up a map of ISIS control on election night compared to now to show how successful his administration has been in decimating ISIS. One red spot left, showing where ISIS has command and control, and he said it'll be gone by tonight. So we're going to wipe out ISIS tonight, essentially. Then he went back to the Mueller report. Trump said, let everybody see it. He told the reporters before he got on the helicopter, let everybody see it. He says he has no idea what's in it. Let everybody see it. He says he can't wait to go back to Ohio. The place that he's going to was closing. They build tanks. They're now open and doing great. He wants to make sure it stays open. Another question back to the Mueller report. Trump once again said there was no collusion. There was no obstruction. None of it made any sense after his great victory. There was no reason to sully his great victory. It didn't happen from collusion. He was then asked about leaving tariffs on China for a long time. He says he's going to do that, going to leave tariffs on China to make sure they live by the deal, for which Trump is being praised, by the way, the trade deal with China. The Chicoms had free reign on the USA, and Trump says we're leveling that playing field, taking in billions and billions and billions of dollars from the Chicom via the tariffs. And they brought up Kellyanne Conway, the media did. And Trump said that her husband is doing a tremendous disservice to a wonderful woman and the family, that Kellyanne is a wonderful woman. And some other reporter, are you going to stop tweeting, Mr. President? Do you realize tweeting is hurting you? Are you going to stop? Trump said Twitter is the only way he can get the word out over corrupt media. The corrupt media doesn't report the facts. He says, on 5 sites, I have over 100 million people. That's how I get honesty out. No, I'm not going to stop tweeting. I'm not going to surrender the news media playing field to you people. Then he got on a helicopter and flew to Joint Base Andrews. A couple of major tenets of the climate change, global warming religion have begun falling apart. You know, one of the reasons why a lot of our youths believe in climate change is Al Gore and that disgraceful, despicable, phony baloney, plastic, good time rock and roller movie of his called, Inconvenient, Inconvenient Truth. And in that movie and an accompanying book, there are a series of pictures of adult polar bears standing on 3-yard square pieces of ice. And in the movie and in the books, Al Gore claims these polar bears are near death. They're about to die because their habitat is melting because of the United States and climate change. See these poor polar bears? Their polar bear population is being wiped out. There's no place for them to go and the pictures are dead frauds. Polar bears can swim 30 miles. Did you know this? They frolic on these ice floes. They have fun. You didn't know that? They can swim. Well, it's a long way they can swim. Okay, maybe not 30 miles, maybe 10, but they can swim. The point is, a polar bear will not drown if it's out in the ocean frolicking around little pieces of ice. But they have these fraudulent photos made to look like the polar bears are barely holding on, they're barely surviving, and my God, that ice is going to melt and they're going to drown, they're going to die, oh my God. The kids believe this. It got so bad that some car maker actually during a Super Bowl created a TV commercial with some clown driving his electric car home and a polar bear was waiting for him in his garage to give him a hug for driving the electric car. And, of course, the youths of America suppose, oh, isn't that cute? Look at the polar bears thanking us for saving their lives. This is so wonderful. They believe this garbage. Well, the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, a new book claims the number of polar bears may have quadrupled in the last 50 years, despite whether or not Arctic sea ice is melting. Scientists predicted massive polar bear population declines as the sea ice retreated, but that has not happened. Zoologist and author Susan Crockford said it's a wonderful conservation success story. Polar bear numbers may have quadrupled in the last 50 years, according to a new book, The Polar Bear Catastrophe That Never Happened. Of course, the polar bear population is not threatened. It never was threatened. The pictures were fraudulent. We pointed it out at the time. But as I will get to, there's a story in the stack about left-wing liberal psychology. And it's about why and how they believe what they believe. And once they get something in their head, like meat is bad and only vegetables can save you, they believe it. You can't talk them out of it. Oh, thank you, Mr. Snerdley. National Geographic, the longest polar bear swim recorded 426 miles, 9 days straight without a break. And you thought I was just grabbing a number out of the sky when I said 30. I happen to know what I know. I'm very proud of what I know. I'm very proud to share what I know, and I'm confident that what I know is right. And I know that polar bears can swim incredible distances without stopping, without having to eat. Of course, they eat along the way. Grab some fish with their paws, chomp down on it, keep swimming. Point is, they don't live on ice that is melting, and therefore they're going to die. The second big tenet of climate change falling apart, and there are, by the way, bunches of them, but these are just two. The Green New Deal is all about all these changes that would make things so damned expensive that they're impractical. The reality is current recycling programs in the United States are too costly to function efficiently, and they're being abandoned by cities across the country, according to the New York Times. Philadelphia, Memphis, Sunrise, and Deltona, Florida. These are cities which are abandoning recycling programs because it's not cost efficient, it doesn't make any difference anyway, and they can't continue it. So, but again, this won't matter. The fact that all of these truths are happening will not shake the faith in the climate change issue because it's religious and it's not the result of critical thought. People who believe in climate change have not arrived at it because they've thought things out and have arrived at a certain conclusion. They have been force-fed an emotional diatribe and they believe it. Anything that makes them a victim, folks. Anything that makes them helpless, anything that allows them to blame everybody else for destroying their happiness is what they will easily be coerced into believing. Brief timeout. Back with much more after this.
The wonder.
Okay, back to the phones we go now, and this is Carolyn in West Haven, Connecticut. Glad you waited, and hi.
Hey, Rush. It's a pleasure waiting. Everyone has these light bulb moments, and mine came today listening to you with my headset on, and I decided that I'm going to take the Rush Limbaugh Challenge, and from 12 to 3 every day in my business, my headphones come off, and the whole business is going to listen to the Rush Limbaugh Show. And if my patients and my gym clients don't like it, well, God bless America. They have choices. They could go elsewhere. And for all the corporate Fox News savants listening to this, which is Fox News used to be on my TVs, after their conscious decisions to alienate a judge, hire a degenerate from CNN, a backstabbing opportunist person as Paul Ryan to run their corporation, they have just, if possible, blown their alienated base out of proportion. And you, Rush Limbaugh, and Donald Trump, your viewers, into the stratosphere, the absolute stratosphere. I am so heated.
Okay. Let me go back to the beginning here. You obviously have a business of some kind where this program and others are on, where people in your office or whatever can listen. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you've decided that from now on, you're going to take my advice, turn off the cable news, and just exclusively make this program available to whoever is in your office able to listen. Is that right?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. And the reason you're doing this is because finally Fox News went too far. You have to throw them overboard because, run through the list again, what happened?
Sure, they made a conscious decision to sanction a judge.
Who? Wait, who?
Janine Pirro. Judge
Judge Janine. Yeah.
They hired a degenerate that couldn't even make it on CNN, Donna Brazile.
Yes, knew this is.
And they hire an opportunistic, backstabbing Paul Ryan to be on their board of directors. He only used Donald Trump to get that tax law passed. And after that, it was, see you later, America. I'm going to take care of myself. And I am so, for the savants of Fox News corporate who listen to this show, because I know they do, they don't need to strain their brain. They could go on Twitter, Facebook, and all over. There are millions of Fox viewers who are looking for alternatives. I don't need to look. I strained this morning. I called Comcast. What am I going to do? And then today I thought, oh, wait, I'm going to take the Rush Challenge, 12-3. That's all
you need. I'm telling you, that's all you need.
That's all I need. Then I'll be happier.
Your attitudes are going to be much better. You're going to be happier. You're not going to be nearly as pissed. Look, hang on here for a second, Carolyn.
And now, Andy Griffith for Obamacare.
1965. A lot of good things came out that year, like Medicare. And now we got us Obamacare. And this year, just like always, you're going to have your guaranteed benefits right up until the time you get sick. So all you old angry white folks out there joining the tea parties and protesting and all, just calm down and be a good cracker. Good cracker. Tell them the new rules, Barney. Well, you see, it's like this. Here in Washington, everybody has to play by the rules. And we've developed a rule book just for you there at home. 62,528 new rules to help you through the process of healthcare in an orderly, organized fashion. Rule number 1. There are no peanut butter and jelly sandwiches allowed in any hospital day or night, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Rule number 2. If any named insured of a qualified plan gets sick, he or she must fill out request form 24/7.
For more information on Obamacare and how it affects those 65 and older, just get sick and you'll find out.
Hello, fellow Georgian. I'm Governor Zell Miller. This collection of classic works by the great masters has been provided for you free of charge by your state government to help every newborn child develop and grow.
Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug.
Studies have shown that listening to classics by Hank Williams, Roger Miller, Marty Robbins,
out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl.
Johnny Cash,
I'm stuck in Folsom,
or even Loretta Lynn can raise the IQ of Georgia's children. A modest shipping and handling fee will be added to your next driver's license renewal. So sit back and enjoy. Thank you.
And now a word from the National Keep Our Own Kids Safe campaign about the danger of soccer.
I see soccer as not a violent sport. It's a symptom of violence, not really a cause of violence.
Keep Our Own Kids Safe national celebrity spokesman Rush Limbaugh.
Are you a paid member of the soccer lobby? There have been people in other endeavors of human activity who have known of inherent risks and have lied about them.
If anything, your words will serve only to embolden people's efforts to spread the sport of soccer, and I hope that doesn't incorporate an increased number of injuries and so on and so forth.
Well, me too. I can only bring the information to the people. If anger at me causes others to get more people into this game, I can't be held accountable for that.
I love the game, and I played a little bit of football as well. And I tell you, I would never take my chances on the football field.
And you took chances that you didn't even know you were taking on the soccer field, and that's my point. You didn't even know because they hid the data from us.
The last time I checked, I didn't have any brain damage. But
Well, oftentimes victims are the last to know. You should ask your family members if there have been any changes.
Join Rush Limbaugh and help support the Keep Our Own Kids Safe campaign. Look for the Keep Our Own Kids Safe chapter near you. You'll find them everywhere.
Okay, back with Carolyn here in West Haven, Connecticut. I wanted to explain these things that you addressed. Let's first start with Judge Jeanine. Judge Jeanine got in trouble for saying something about the new esteemed congresswoman from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, saying that a woman who wears the hijab cannot be compatible with the U.S. Constitution if she believes in Sharia law. And if she's wearing the hijab, she believes in Sharia law, and it's not compatible. You know, can I ask you something, Carolyn? Do you find it fascinating, something that I still don't really have the explanation for? It's so weird. We are attacked on 9/11. 3,000 Americans are killed by militant Islamist terrorists on 9/11, 2001. And ever since then, we have been portrayed as the problem and not them. And we have been seeking their forgiveness. And we have been apologizing to them. And we have been going out of our way to prove to them that we have nothing against them. We didn't blow them up. They blew us up on 9/11. Now they'll claim, well, but you've been blowing us up in the Middle East and all that. It's all about our support for Israel. But it has just, it's blown my mind how after 3,000 Americans are murdered on 9/11 that we apologize. And we've been apologizing since that date. And we have been begging forgiveness. And we've been making sure there isn't any Muslim backlash. And meanwhile, Christians are being slaughtered all over the world. And the media doesn't cover it because it doesn't fit their narrative. So here comes Judge Jeanine, simply voicing this, and I'll tell you who got her, I think, suspended. There's a story going around, I guess, Twitter, that Brett Baer demanded this inside Fox. Folks, that is not true. This is directly from CARE, Council for Arab Islamic Relations. They're the ones putting all kinds of pressure here. But there's nobody inside Fox that is responsible for demanding that management sit down, Judge Jeanine for a while. On the, you mentioned Paul Wright. What was the other thing you mentioned besides
firing Donna Brazil as a contributing to the show?
Well, you know, she's not the first liberal Democrat Fox has hired. They're all over the place on Fox. Why does this one bother you so much?
She got caught cheating. She was fired from CNN. Could Fox not find another person without a background? They're sending signals to their audience where their viewership is going. There is no reason Judge Jeanine didn't say anything. She didn't hyperbole it. She didn't add adjectives. She just stated a fact. I stand by her and her decision.
Well, this is my point. That Judge Jeanine says something that's arguably not false, and it fits the mold here that somehow after 9/11, 2001, we're the ones that have to apologize. We're the ones that have to excuse ourselves and ask for forgiveness. This doesn't make any sense to me. I've never understood. You know, the State Department, within a month after 9/11, convened a forum for State Department employees, the title of which was, "Why Do They Hate Us So Much?" As though 9/11 was our fault. We had to come to some kind of understanding. Why did they do this to us? It must be something we've done. The United States was therefore guilty. I saw that. And I think that this is happening in the Bush administration. I understand your pique about Donna Brazile. She did funnel town hall questions to Hillary, and she did run the DNC during the, shall we say, hacking of the DNC computer scandal and all that. I can't explain to you why she was hired. I can only speculate. And it would be along the lines of Fox is being targeted by a bunch of people, and they're trying to make themselves a smaller target by showing how fair and balanced they really are. Something like that. Then
they're losing.
They're losing,
Rush, because their audience is gone, and the advertisers will go to you. Donald Trump is going to get reelected because he is real people, not a politician. And Fox is just losing the battle. They're going to lose more viewers from these decisions they just recently made.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. They're still cleaning everybody's clock. Particularly in primetime, they are cleaning in the what is called the opinionated portions of the Fox.
Well, there's a low bar to follow. The clock's not so big. I mean, it's not really who's out there. If put them up against you, they'd lose. I mean, set a bar higher than the other people's that they're going. Set a bar higher than CNN, MSNBC. They don't have much of a leap and bound to go.
Well,
they're selling back.
There may be something in that. I have to acknowledge that there may be something. Competition kind of sucks. I agree, but still, they're cleaning their clocks. It doesn't matter. They're cleaning their clocks, and they have cleaned their clocks for decades or over 10 years. It's amazing. Look, you mentioned Paul Ryan. Now, what's happening here? The Fox is being spun off. It used to be 20th Century Fox, 21st Century Fox. Now Fox has done this gigantic deal with Disney, and Fox has gotten very much smaller. They've gotten rid of all the movies, all the television station studios and so forth, and now it is the TV stations, the Fox News Channel, and some other things, and Rupert Murdoch's son, Lachlan, has been put in charge of it. And it is Lachlan Murdoch that went out and got Paul Ryan for this new company to put Paul Ryan on the board. This is commonplace. I mean, this is how crony capitalism or whatever crony socialism works. Ryan, even though he's not in government anymore, still has a lot of sway there, still has a lot of power, putting him on those, like Apple hiring Al Gore for their board. This is just, it's the way corporations interact with Washington. This is how they do it. You're expecting Fox to be loyal to the audience, and in your view, that Paul Ryan is considered a bit of a problem because he didn't support Trump, and therefore Fox should have nothing to do with it. And that's not how Fox looks at it.
Well, they're going to be looking in a rearview mirror there's
I can't get too deeply into this because some stuff I'm not supposed to know, but there are real concerns over. For the longest time, let me just put it to you. For the longest time, even back when Roger Ailes was the chairman and CEO of the Grand Poobah, there were fears that elements of Fox management didn't like Fox as a conservative news channel because they aren't conservative and they wanted to move it off the conservative identity and move it back toward the middle. Well, that theory has arisen again. And that theory is rooted in the fact that there are now two different Fox news channels. You got the prime time, which is where the opinionated conservatism is. Tucker, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, the 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. block. And then the rest of the news channel, they think they are the day-to-day journalists, and they are complaining that the strong identity of the opinion programming in prime time is tainting their image and their work as journalists, and they don't like it. And so there are rumors that eventually, not tomorrow, not anytime soon, but this new Fox is going to change some of the primetime programming, make it less hard-hitting conservatism and so forth. Nobody really knows. These are just rumors that are floating around and circulating, and they're trying to create this impression that half of Fox is at war with the other half of Fox, that the quote-unquote daytime Fox, the Shepard Smith Fox, the journalists at Fox are very, very, very unhappy with the primetime Fox. And they effort to create this picture of conflict and the need to resolve that conflict. And I think a lot of this is coming from journalists who cover Fox, who would love for Fox to be decimated. They would love for Fox to tear itself apart. They would love for Fox to take away its strengths. And they're the ones reporting on these rumors and so forth. So, who knows what there is to all this. But I know that you're not alone. I've gotten a lot of feedback on what has happened here to Judge Janine and how unfair it is. It's also kind of scary to a lot of people because she didn't say anything that is confrontationally controversial. She just said some things that you're not supposed to say about Sharia and Islam. And if you couple that with the slaughter of Christians around the world is something that's real and not being reported on because it doesn't fit the narrative of the media. The media narrative is that Muslims are the targets and that Muslims are the victims and that Muslims are being unfairly targeted, criticized, and so forth. And so anything that doesn't fit that narrative doesn't make the news, so to speak. Anyway, I'm glad you called, Carolyn, very much. I appreciate your time. We'll take a brief time out and come back before you know it.
How does he squeeze all is coming?
Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. Trump and McCain. This issue continues to expand and grow. And I'm going to cut through all of the Twitter clutter and give you the nub of what's going on here. Yesterday, in a series of tweets, President Trump told the story of how John McCain screwed over the entire country when he failed to vote to get rid of Obamacare, the repeal and replace of Obamacare. He said that it was a last-minute thing after many promises that he would vote with the White House. This is Trump telling people that they had assurances upon assurances from Senator McCain that he was going to vote to repeal and replace Obamacare. Now, Jim Acosta, CNN, found a quote-unquote source who told him that that wasn't true. Some former aide to McCain told Acosta that Trump is lying. McCain never promised the White House he was going to vote to repeal or replace Obamacare. And so Acosta's running this all over Twitter, and I don't know, probably put it on the air at CNN, basically saying he's got a source, unnamed, McCain aide, claiming that Trump is lying about this. Well, Matt Schlapp and his wife Mercedes in a communication shop at the White House. Matt Schlapp runs CPAC. At the time, Matt Schlapp was the key White House guy counting votes on this issue. Every president, every White House, every West Wing has a guy that stays in touch with Capitol Hill, a liaison that keeps the West Wing informed on the status of legislation the White House is interested in, kind of like a presidential whip. He's not out there actually whipping votes, but he is the vote counter. He's in touch with the whips. He's in touch with the Republican leaders in the Senate and the House, and he knows who is going to vote. And it's up to him to count the votes, and he reports to the president what the latest is. And Matt Schlapp told a reporter that somebody might want to fact check what Jimmy Acosta is saying, because Matt Schlapp says that what Acosta tweeted isn't true. Matt Schlapp said McCain met with me in my office and pledged to support every version of repeal and replace and said he would lead the charge. Everybody was worried he would flip-flop when it mattered, and he did. He did on the flight to Washington. Schlapp says, Acosta, I was tracking Senator McCain up until the vote, and everyone was told that he was solid on his vote against Obamacare, but all of us knew that McCain was unpredictable. None of us, including the president, are lying about this. So Matt Schlapp, putting his reputation out there, assuring Acosta that whoever is talking to him is telling him falsehoods, that McCain had assured the White House over and over again he was going to vote to repeal and replace, but that they always knew he could change his mind because he was McCain. And so on the flight to Washington is when Schlapp found out McCain had changed his mind, if he was actually ever being truthful with him in the first place about the intent of his vote. Now, of course, this doesn't satisfy Acosta. Acosta thinks everybody but him is lying and so forth. So given all of this, you can understand why Trump and Matt Schlapp, everybody else in the West Wing, would be livid. McCain, according to them, led them to believe he was a solid vote to repeal and replace Obamacare. He had campaigned on it. He had made a big deal out of how bad he thought Obamacare was. So then he comes in, and at the moment of truth, he's the last vote, gives his famous thumbs down, and kills the repeal. And Trump feels like he was lied to, misled, and what have you. So now there's all kinds of news stories about the feud between Trump and McCain. Washington Post, the McCain family deserves better, Republican senator says, as Trump continues to lash out. The McCain family deserves better. From thehill.com, Anderson Cooper blasts Trump over McCain attacks. Why, he's punching a person who is dead. This is from CNN, by the way, running and promoting a documentary called Tricky Dick. You know why they're doing it? Do you know what MSNBC is? Snurdly, you may not know this. Do you know that MSNBC on Saturday and Sunday, like from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., is running never-ending repeats of All the President's Men? Oh, yeah, they're running the movie of how Woodward and Bernstein got rid of Nixon. They run this so that their audience can get set up for the impeachment of Trump. And now CNN has got this series called Tricky Dick, which is designed to get their audience prepared and set up for the impeachment of Trump. Romney has knocked Trump over his McCain criticism. How dare you criticize an American war hero who died? How dare you do this? And then, not to be outdone, James Clyburn of the Congressional Black Caucasians has chimed in that Trump and his family are the greatest threats to democracy in our lifetime. Trump and his family are the modern incarnation of, wait for it, Adolf Hitler. Polling data suggests that television viewers are tiring and tired of Saturday Night Live's political obsession with Donald Trump. That doesn't surprise me. Everybody on the left is so overreaching, it's going to come back and bite them. Yeah, just getting organized. I just came across something that I think you need to hear about. Greetings, my friends, and welcome back. El Rushbo executing assigned host duties flawlessly. Zero mistakes. Zilch, zero nada. Okay, I have here a story from Paul Sperry, who is a recognized great investigative reporter, not part of the drive-by media culture. Thankfully for us, he has written for a number of different publications, including the New York Post, a number of different websites. This piece appears at realclearinvestigations.com. And the headline here, Trump, Russia 2.0. Dossier tied firm pitching journalists daily on collusion. Now, I'm not going to be able to share the whole thing with you because it prints out to 11 pages. And I just had the break here at the top of the hour to dig into this and absorb and mark up enough of it here to be able to share some of it in a way that makes sense. It's very complex. We'll link to it so you can read it at rushlimbaugh.com. But I think this story actually, among other things, is going to inform us where all of the same talking points in the drive-by media come from. For example, remember our famous montage, the montage that started all the montages, our montage on hundreds of media people using the word gravitas to describe George W. Bush's choice of Dick Cheney as his vice presidential running mate. Since that montage, news organizations and websites and other programs have been doing montages on everything. But that was the montage that started it all. And I'm exaggerating hundreds. We had at least 50 different journalists in that montage, and they're all, every damn one of them, talks about how the choice shows gravitas, or that it was for gravitas, because Bush didn't have any. Bush didn't have any seriousness. He didn't have any weight about him. And so his choice of Cheney showed gravitas. It was uncanny how many journalists who you would think are competitors and would want to be different were instead identically uniform. Well, this piece may actually uncover how this happens. Let me begin at the beginning. Again, the headline, Trump Russia 2.0, dossier tied firm pitching journalist daily on collusion. Key Democratic operatives and private investigators who tried to derail Trump's campaign by claiming he was a tool of the Kremlin have rebooted the operation since his election with a multi-million-dollar stealth campaign to persuade major media outlets and lawmakers the president should be impeached. The effort has successfully placed a series of questionable stories alleging secret back channels and meetings between Trump associates and Russian spies, while at the same time trying to influence related investigations and reports from Congress. The Operations Nerve Center is a Washington-based nonprofit called the Democracy Integrity Project, or TDIP. Among other activities, it pumps out daily quote-unquote research briefings to prominent Washington journalists as well as congressional staffers to keep the Russia collusion narrative alive. Let me stop here and summarize and explain. The original Trump-Russia collusion theory or story came from a totally made-up piece of crap called the Steele dossier, then became known as the Trump dossier, then just simply the dossier. And it was all of these unverifiable, uncorroborated articles of supposed intelligence linking Trump to Russia. And, of course, the big one was the golden shower story, in which Trump found when he was in Moscow in a hotel that Obama had slept on that same bed in that same room. And so Trump promptly hired some prostitutes to come over and urinate on the bed. That was called the golden shower story, and it was the prominent story in the dossier. It was the story that Comey explained to Trump when explaining a dossier to him. Remember, Trump had said that he didn't need a daily intelligence brief, that he was smart and he could remember things. He didn't need to talk to these people every day. Well, that didn't go over well because the intel people want daily access to the president, whoever it is, to be able to influence him. And Trump is basically telling him to go pound sand. So Comey and his buddies, they had to find a way to get this dossier in the public. And the way to do that was to make it news. The way to make it news was to present it to Trump. So Comey takes the dossier in coordination with James Clapper, who is the director of national intelligence. He goes to the White House and he shows Trump that one aspect of the dossier and says to Trump, this is the kind of stuff that's out there every day you need to know about, Mr. President. You need to know the kinds of things our foreign adversaries are saying about you. Trump said, well, this is crazy. It's absolutely, why should I have to be told about this? This is absolute insanity. Comey didn't care about that. He called Clapper on the way out of the White House and said, mission accomplished. Clapper then called CNN and says Trump has now seen the dossier. So CNN begins an investigation of the dossier. BuzzFeed since publishes it. And then CNN ended up getting a Pulitzer Prize for their story on how Trump became aware of the dossier. It was a total put-up job. That dossier was Hillary Clinton opposition research, and it was circulating throughout Washington all during the summer of 2016, but it never made it in the media because everybody knew it was lies. Everybody knew it was unverified, uncorroborated, but they desperately wanted it in the public domain. Comey and Clapper figured out how to do that. This all happens after Trump is elected and after he is in office. And so the dossier was designed to set up plunging Trump approval numbers so they could eventually impeach him. But that didn't happen. The Mueller investigation was then called because the Democrats were unsatisfied with a bunch of things. So Rosenstein names Mueller, and Mueller begins an investigation of Trump-Russia collusion. And we now know with incontrovertible evidence that this dossier was the only thing they had that in any way, including chock full of lies, that in any way gave them an excuse to say that Trump might have been colluding with Russia. Everybody involved in it, including Mueller, at some point learned that it was totally bogus, and they still used it to get FISA warrants. I'm convinced that a number of liberal Democrats and journalists actually did believe this at first. And they desperately searched for evidence to prove it. There wasn't any because it was all lies. So that effort kind of fizzled. It gave us the Mueller investigation, but there hasn't been any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion whatsoever. So the people behind that original effort have now started version 2.0. And the name of this group doing this, the Democracy Integrity Project, or TDIP. And they have been, for the past year and a half, pumping out daily research and briefings to prominent Washington journalists like Jim Acosta, as well as congressional staffers to keep the Russia collusion narrative alive. In other words, they are producing lies. They are producing total BS to keep the collusion narrative alive, even though the dossier has bombed out and even though the Mueller investigation hasn't found any collusion. Now, this organization, TDIP, the Democracy Integrity Project, is led by somebody called Daniel Jones. He is a former FBI investigator, a Clinton administration volunteer, and a top staffer to California Senator Dianne Feinstein. Daniel Jones. You may have heard his name related to other scandals, such as the Christine Blasey Ford scandal. This guy, as an operative for Dianne Feinstein, has been all over. His fingerprints have been all over these multiple efforts to impugn and destroy Donald Trump. Now, this group, TDIP, the Democracy Integrity Project, a nonprofit, employs key opposition research people behind the Steele dossier. They employ Glenn Simpson, who was the Fusion GPS co-founder and who worked with Steele to write the dossier. They've also hired Steele, even though he's been totally discredited. The financial backers include Rob Reiner, the Hollywood actor, and George Soros. The project's work has been largely shrouded in mystery, but a months-long examination by Paul Sperry at Real Clear Investigations found that the organization is running an elaborate media influence operation that includes driving and shaping daily coverage of the Russia collusion theory, as well as pushing stories about Trump in the national media that attempt to tie him and his associates to the Kremlin, even to this day. This group also feeds information to FBI and congressional investigators, and then they tell reporters that authorities are investigating these leads. So these Doomkopf sponge reporters take it for gospel what these people say they've got, and then they run with it. And this ends up being source material for the investigation into Trump-Russia collusion. One nonprofit has force-fed all of the drive-by media a complete crock of excrement on Trump-Russia collusion, and that's how it continues to be reported, even though there isn't any. But feeding information to the FBI and feeding information to congressional investigators as a tactic adds credibility to the pitches made by this organization. And because of this credibility, when they say that there's collusion between Trump and the Kremlin or Trump associates, well, they are said to have credibility. And this is why the media totally relies, because of who it is that works at this nonprofit. Sperry says that all of this mirrors the strategy that federal authorities themselves deployed to secure FISA warrants to spy on the Trump campaign. They cite published news reports of investigative details their informants had leaked to the media. In other words, do you know, in the quest to get a FISA warrant, do you know what the FBI did? The FBI, McCabe, stroke, smirk, would leak portions of the dossier to the media. They would leak elements of their investigation to the media. The media would then report on what the FBI had leaked. The FBI would then take those news stories and attach them to their FISA warrant application to say, see, Judge, this is so true, the media is even reporting it. Isn't just us here in the FBI. Well, the only reason the media had it is because the FBI leaked it for this express purpose. So the FISA judge, if they're not in on it, sitting there saying, wow, Trump-Russia collusion, you've got this dossier, now you got the media report, it must be something to it. Here's your warrant. We sign off on it. They are doing the exact same thing here. They are leaking garbage. They are leaking made-up things about ongoing Trump contact with the Kremlin. The media then reports this stuff, and that feeds on itself as a continual loop. 5 days a week. Emails from TDIP in the form of a newsletter to influential Democrats and prominent Beltway journalists under the heading TDIP Research. And these newsletters summarize the latest collusion news, and the emails offer points of interest to inspire fresh stories regarding Trump's alleged ties to Moscow. So we have version 2.0. Paul Sperry has uncovered all this. And this organization, TDIP, may well be the source for all of this uniform reporting in the media on whatever. Gravitas, Russian collusion with Trump. The key takeaway here is that despite the utter falsity of the original Steele dossier, despite the fact that there is no evidence whatsoever of Trump-Russia collusion, a former staffer for Dianne Feinstein and Bill Clinton is now running an organization that's feeding journalists with a new set of lies and distortions that are perpetuating the Trump-Russia collusion myth. And this is said to be one of the reasons why people like pencil neck Adam Schiff are saying, well, maybe Mueller didn't do as good a job as we can do. Members of Congress and the media are being told that there are things Mueller hasn't found. This is how they are covering the fact that Mueller hadn't found anything, because there isn't anything. This group is informing journalists that they know of things that Mueller may have missed. We don't know yet. We haven't seen his report. That's how they're keeping this whole thing alive. This is a hoax From day one, it continues as a hoax, and now it's, according to Paul Sperry, into version 2.0. Quick time out. Back with more after this.
Listen to Rush Limbaugh's award-winning radio show anytime. Just download the Rush 24/7 app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Get daily podcasts or watch El Rush Poe on the Ditto Cam whenever or wherever you'd like.
And there's lots of other goodies that you can access there, too. It's just superb. It's an encyclopedia.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
You know, there's something out there called an income inequality strike. And people on strike over income inequality, and Crazy Bernie has joined the strike. There's another strike. I can't remember what it is. Some other. There's people striking over the fact their stomachs are bigger than their people. I don't know. I can't remember what it is. But the left is doing all kinds of strikes. But I got to get back to the phones. I haven't gotten the phones in easily a half hour. That's not good. Here is Sean in Adelphi, Indiana. It's one of my all-time favorite towns, by the way, Adelphi, Indiana. Great to have you, Sean.
It's worth the wait, Rush. It's an honor to be on the show.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that.
I want your thoughts on whether or not the crazy rhetoric and the policies coming out from the left might not serve to boost support for Trump by bringing the never-Trumpers out to vote for Trump in 2020, even if they have to hold their nose.
Nope. Ain't gonna happen.
No. What about when Hillary was elected, or when they were afraid of Hillary?
They voted for Hillary. They proudly said they voted for Hillary. Bill Kristol and his bunch voted for her.
Yeah. Well, I meant more of the American people and not people in the Senate. But I talked to a lot of people who.
Oh, wait a minute. When you say a never Trumper to me is a conservative intellectual writer. Is that who? You don't mean those people. Who do you mean?
I think more the regular people who say they would never vote for Trump out of fear for what's coming.
Okay, yes. Then in that case, I do believe that it's happening every day. I think as the left continues with this craziness of the Green New Deal and banning cow farting, and then you just go down the list. Banning the Electoral College, packing the Supreme Court. I think there are people that you can't even envision that are out there making up their minds to vote for Trump every day just to avoid the insanity of what they're hearing coming out of the Democrat Party. I think there's a lot of them, too. I think there are more people that are raising eyebrows and really alarmed at what they're hearing from the Democrats than we will ever be told. The media is never going to report on the left this way. There will never be a story. You will never see the story, Democrats driven to Trump by Biden. Democrats driven to Trump by Kamala Harris. Democrats driven to Trump by Mayor Pete. Democrats driven to Trump by Tulsi Gabbard. Democrats driven to Trump by Crazy Bernie. You'll never see those stories. Democrats driven to Trump by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You will never see any of those stories because the drive-by media doesn't want to even know about those stories. The drive-by media doing everything they can to ignore the economy, which for the longest time has been the singular issue to indicate whether or not an incumbent president will be reelected. Why do you think they're focusing so much on this George Conway, Kellyanne Conway stuff, folks? Why do you think? Because they're trying to make George Conway look normal and Kellyanne Conway and Trump look like the oddballs. But who looks like the absolute bad guy in this story? George Conway. To average, ordinary people, George Conway looks like a gigantic creep. Who in the world could do this to his wife publicly? This is what people are saying. They're not. Now, the never-Trumpers are applauding George Conway because he is one of them. But most normal people are looking at this, and it doesn't compute. None of it computes. Kellyanne did an interview, I think, with Politico that just published today. And she was quite open about this. And she said that President Trump has been so supportive of her that he has purposely avoided staying out of this so as not to bring any more attention to her. And he has told her that, look, if you need to leave and go and be with your babies and raise your kids, go ahead and do so. You have my full blessing, but I would prefer you stay. And she has stayed. She is out with a piece today that praises Trump to the end of the world for his support in this and for the way he has dealt with it and chosen to avoid certain aspects of it. And then if you just examine Conway, what this is behavior that not very many people can imagine themselves engaging in. His behavior, undermining the mother of his children publicly. People can't. I'm sure there are some people cheering him on because there's all kinds of people, but I'm talking about the base population of normal Americans looks at this, and it's not George Conway that is perceived as the guy being wronged or the guy being mistreated or the guy being unfairly characterized. It's the other way around. It is George Conway people don't understand. It's George Conway shrinking every day in public opinion by virtue of this. But the media, of course, is making George Conway look like the star. The media is making George Conway look brave. The media is saying George Conway must have really serious problems with President Trump if he's willing to risk his marriage to this degree. So the media is portraying Conway as a star, as a brave patriot, even willing to risk everything he loves to save this nation from the evil clutches of Donald Trump. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's not 1 out of 30 people in the normal population of this country that look at this situation that way. So once again, they are out of touch. They will never do stories on how popular Trump is becoming because of the left. You'll never see those stories. And in fact, they may not even think it's happening, so they'll never even try to find out if it is, much less report on it if it were. Here is Mike in St. Charles, Illinois. Great to have you with us, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. How you doing? Mega dittos.
Thank you, sir.
My call. I have a question going back to the earlier topic on the Electoral College and the popular vote, and I can't seem to find an answer on it, and I'm hoping you'd help me out. If it means nothing, why do we count the popular vote at the federal level for the
Because it doesn't.
presidency?
It doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah, see, I can't find, then what does it mean? Why do we do it? I know we've been doing it since the beginning, and there's been a handful of times where we've had results like in 2016, but it means nothing to in the presidency. So I'm just curious why.
You couldn't get to the Electoral College vote without the popular vote.
No, I get that it's used towards that, but why is it then used as a crutch or as fodder for the loser or for the person who didn't win to use that against us, against the person who did win the popular vote?
I'm not sure I understand the question. How is it used against somebody? What do you mean?
Well, just an argument. Like they're trying to argue the case now that we should eliminate the Electoral College and just go with the popular vote.
Well, the reason for that is urine poor education, which is not explained to people how our presidential elections actually work.
Right.
And how the Electoral College works. Just because people don't understand it doesn't mean we should abolish it. Maybe
not
it's
abolish it, but just clarify. Well, again, you're right. It's education. It's how these people are, or how the education system has dumbed down
Look, I don't want to give you short shrift. I want to really understand what you're asking here. And what I hear you asking is, why do we even do the popular vote if it doesn't matter? Is that what your question?
I mean, I could see why we do it, but why do we have to make it such a big, or why does it have to be another tally in
99% of the time, the popular vote determines the presidential winner. In 2000, it didn't. And in 2016, it didn't.
Right. And I understand there's maybe one or two times prior to that. But since it really doesn't matter, then
that's where it does matter. It does matter. The Electoral College vote wouldn't be what it is without the popular vote. The popular vote, by the way, is used in many other ways. It's used for reapportionment, congressional districts, all kinds of things depend on the popular vote, besides the actual election of the president.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I get that part of it.
How many people vote in a district will determine how much that district might get in federal welfare benefits, for example.
Sure.
All kinds of ways the popular vote matters.
Right, except in the actual final election of the presidency, right?
Your question is improperly framed. It's not why does the popular vote not matter? The question is, why does the Electoral College determine the presidential winner? That is the question. And if you can't answer that question, not you personally, but if people can't answer that, then they're going to, well, then why do we even have to vote for popular? Just have these electors vote and be done. Well, why don't we lobby them? And why don't the presidents campaign against the electors? Because the electors are pledged to vote the way it goes in their states.
So then I guess the problem I'm having is that even though this happens very rarely, why does it need to be the one issue that they latch onto when it doesn't go their way?
Because they latch on to anything that they think is denying them their privileged right to power. So if the popular vote is screwing them, we got to get rid of the popular vote. If the Electoral College is screwing them, we got to get rid of the Electoral College. If the Catholic Church is screwing them, we got to get rid of the Catholic Church and put as many gay people as priests in there as we can. If babies are killing us, then we got to abort them. You know, whatever it is that's causing them to lose is what they are going to demand that we get rid of. And they are demanding it. They don't want to debate it. They don't want to put it up for popular vote and proposals and have arguments back and forth about it and have popular will determine. They want what they want mandated, whether you like it or not. Let me tell you something. They wouldn't be making one move against the Electoral College if it hadn't worked against them in 2016. This is going to come back and bite them. Harry Reid declaring the nuclear option to get Obama's judges confirmed is killing the Democrats in allowing Trump's judges to get confirmed. These are short-sighted, mean-spirited, angry little people who, when they lose, do not chalk it up to the fact that they might have miscalculated or misread the American public or did something wrong. It's the system that's screwing them. It's the system. It's America. So America needs to be changed. If the popular vote doesn't elect them, get rid of it. If the Electoral College doesn't elect them, get rid of it. That's why you got to oppose these people. They will get rid of virtually everything that makes this country America, because they really can't survive in a representative republic. They are not the majority, and they don't win. Well, they do sometimes, but they don't. They have other mechanisms to get what they want, like an activist judiciary or any number of things. But your question is not, why do we even mess with it? Your question is, why do people not understand the Electoral College and how it works? Why do they not understand the difference in the way the Senate's populated versus the House of Representatives? The real question is, how is it that so many Americans don't know diddly squat about the greatest country on earth?
The courage to fight and the talent to succeed. Rush on the EIB.
Okay. Couple of quick things here. Jerry Nadler left to pound sand. Targets of sweeping probe miss deadline to respond. All those people Nadler was demanding documents have told him to go to They haven't given him one thing. At the same time, Congressional Black Caucasian's former chairman Elijah Cummings is complaining the White House hasn't turned over a single piece of paper to his committee that he's requested. So Nadler and Cummings are being stiffed by Trump and administration officials whose documents are being sought. This is the way to do it. Just pound sand. Just make these. Just don't respond to them. I actually love it. Hey, folks, tax refund season. You probably know that. IRS mailing out checks to those who filed a return early and are deserving or owed a refund. Now, do you know some of those refunds get diverted to cyber criminals using stolen identity information to obtain that check? You have no idea. Somebody gets hold of your social security information or tax ID number, and they file a fake tax return. They make up everything. That gives them a $2,500 refund or whatever. Not something overly large that's going to red flag anything. And they file that return in January. They get the return in February or March while you haven't even filed. Then you file your return and you never hear back. And you call up, hey, where's my refund? Well, we paid it to you back in January, the IRS says. No, you didn't. You have been a victim of one of the biggest scams going. And LifeLock can be a big help here. When you have LifeLock, you have their resources continually scanning the web, looking for evidence that your information's in the wrong hands. And if it is, they will find it. And then they tell you, they notify you. Together with LifeLock, you're able to confirm whether your information has been stolen without your knowledge. Nobody does what they do, and nobody comes close to doing it as well. So get LifeLock today. You can do it in an hour. Go online to lifelock.com or call them 800-440-4833. Use my name either way, 10% off the plan that you choose. Lifelock.com or 800-440-4833. Stop your identity from being stolen.